There passed a weary time. Each throat was parched and glazed each eye. A weary time, a weary time. How glazed each weary eye. When looking westward, I beheld a something in the sky. At first it seemed a little speck, and then it seemed a mist. It moved, and took at last a certain shape, I wist. A speck, a mist, a shape, I wist, and still it neared and neared, as if it dodged a water sprite. It plunged and tacked and veered. With throats unslacked, with black lips baked, we could nor laugh nor wail. Through utter drought, all dumb we stood. I bit my arm, I sucked the blood, and cried, a snail, a snail. With throats unslaked, with black lips baked, agape they heard me call. Gramercy, they for joy did grin, and all at once their breath drew in, as they were drinking all. See, see, she tacks no more. Hither to work us wheel, without to a breeze, without a tide, she steadies with upright kneel. A main question about this section involves the themes of the article. And Mariner is often rooted in isolation and utter abandonment of hope as time continues on and on. We can see this as he waits and waits for an approaching ship, and when it finally comes, the ship gives him purpose. It gives him hope, and he decides to do something with it. Throughout the poem, the poet uses nature as the controlling force in Mariner's life. So a question could be, what are the different figurative language devices seen throughout this story? And I can answer this by noting that there is repetition, metaphors, ambiguities, and personification all throughout the text. The repetition of the word weary in stanza 1 of part 3 is used to emphasize how much time has been dragged on. It is known that the men were exhausted and tired out of sea, so the word is emphasized further by repeating it over and over. Another example of repetition includes the metaphors describing words leading to a change in tone, and the last one would include repetition serving to So a metaphor could be identified by stanza 2 of part 3, where it says, at first it seemed a little speck, and then it seemed a mist. The two metaphors compare the unknown object first to a speck, which can be mistaken for anything from a far distance, and the mist, which is mysterious, and it's
The western wave was all aflame. The day was well nigh done. Almost upon the western wave rested the broad, bright sun, when that strange shape drove suddenly betwixt us and the sun. And straight the sun was flecked with bars. Heaven's mother send us grace. As if through a dungeon great he peered, with a broad and burning face. Alas! thought I, and my heart beat loud. How fast she nears and nears! Are those her sails that glance in the sun like restless gossameres? Are those her ribs through which the sun did peer, as through a grate? And is that woman all her crew? Is that a death? And are there two? Is death that woman's mate? Her lips were red, her looks were free, her locks were yellow as gold, her skin was white as leprosy. The nightmare life in death was she, who thicks man's blood with cold. The naked hulk alongside came, and the twain were casting dice. The game is done. I've won. I've won. Quoth she, and whistles thrice. The sun's rim dips, the stars rush out. At one stride comes the dark, with far heard whisper, o'er the sea. Off shot the spectre bark. What's the theme in this section? The theme of this passage is the power of imagination. Through imagination, the mariner enhances his tales to make them more engaging to the wedding guest. Many of the author's poems take a similar approach, completely abandoning the setting to go into a land of imagination. This theme serves as a basis for the entire poem. What figurative language is used? Metaphors and similes are common forms of figurative language used in this poem. These types of figurative languages are used to relate the story to the audience. In this case, the wedding guest becomes more captivated in the mariner's story because of this figurative language. Symbolism is also used in this poem. The sun and the moon are used as major symbols in the story. The sun represents the anger and wrath of God, while the moon represents the benevolent and peacefulness of God. What imagery and personification is used? The author uses imagery to create a picture in the reader's mind. Imagery can appeal to all five senses: taste, smell, touch, sight, and auditory. An example of imagery is on line 190. Is death that woman's mate? Her lips were red. Her looks were free. Her locks were yellow as gold. Her skin was white as leprosy. Imagery is used here to effectively give the reader an accurate picture of the woman's appearance. Personification is also an important tool that is used. One example of personification is on line 182. How fast she nears and nears! Are those her sails that glance in the sun? The author speaks of the boat as if it is a woman.
We listened and looked sideways, up, fear at my heart, as at a cup my life blood seemed to sip. The stars were dim and thick the night. The steersman's face by his lamp gleamed white. From the sails the dew did drip, till clomb above the eastern bar the horned moon with one bright star within the nether tip. One after one, by the star-dogged moon, too quick for groan or sigh, each turned his face with a ghastly pang, and cursed me with his eye. Four times 50 living men, and I heard no sigh nor groan. With heavy thump, a lifeless lump, they dropped down one by one. The souls did from their bodies fly, they fled to bliss or woe, and every soul it passed me by, like the whiz of my crossbow.